200 miles from Earth and experience our planet from a new perspective. Gain a 360.
Sometimes a little distance is all you need to see things in a brand new way. Former International Space Station Commander Terry Virts joins us ahead of his appearance at the Burlington Performing Arts Center coming up next week, where people can feel like they were on the ISS, as he took some stunning video and still images. And happy to be joined by Terry from Houston, where hopefully there isn't a problem this morning. Good morning, Terry. How much did you love being an astronaut, and how long did you want to do that for?
Oh, it was my dream since I was a kid. I grew up with posters of space and the space shuttle and rockets on the wall. It's something I wanted to do my whole life. So when I finally got to do it, it was a dream come true. And then I had to wait about a decade. There was a lot of things happening at NASA in the early 2000s. It was a long wait to fly, but the wait was definitely worth it. It was just awesome.
How many days were you on the ISS?
My first flight was 2 weeks, and my second flight was about 200 days, so a little over 7 months in total. And it was spectacular. That's what the talk that I'm doing is, trying to bring people into what it's like to be on a space mission, what it's like to be in outer space in orbit.
When you're on the ISS for that long, do you get bored? And this is where it took up some time?
People ask that all the time. I never got bored. I mean, all day, every day, Monday through Friday and half Saturdays were work. And then on Sundays, I was catching up on sleep. And the rest of the time I was taking pictures. They told me when I got back that I took the most pictures ever. And I helped to make an IMAX movie called A Beautiful Planet with Tony Myers, who's based there in Toronto, in Ontario. And so I never had any free time. I was either working or catching up with people on Earth, or mostly in any spare time that I had, I was taking pictures and working on that film.
Another name that we know very well is Chris Hadfield, who spent some time on the ISS. Were you there at the same time? Yeah.
I've heard of him. No, actually, Chris and I almost flew together. Another astronaut got injured, and I almost ended up on the flight with Chris. He was there, I think, a couple years before me, probably 2 years, maybe 3 years before me. But we know each other very well. We've actually done some talks together, and had a similar career. We both flew on the shuttle and then on the space station.
Well, how cool is it in this live event, this National Geographic live event, speaking to an audience, that you're really taking people into being on the ISS with you and molding your passion of photography and the International Space Station and being an astronaut?
I love it. I've been doing this for a few years now for National Geographic. I just did an event in Florida last week. Audiences absolutely love it. I take them through daily life on the station. There's a lot of things, what's it like to sleep in space? What's a spacewalk like? How do you eat? That kind of stuff. I go through my home movies. These pictures that you've been showing are just a few. And that's kind of my favorite part. And then I have a few kind of bigger picture lessons. I was up there with Russians when they invaded Ukraine the first time back in 2015, and they annexed Crimea. So I talk about that, and there's some environmental message there too. It's a beautiful planet, it really is, but there are some environmental problems for sure. So I talk about some big picture issues also. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this talk.
Yeah, do you get what's the most common question you would get? I would think it would be something like, I just want to know what Earth looks like from that view.
Yeah. So there's probably a Mount Rushmore of most common questions. What's it like in space? And I talk about floating and the learning curve that's very steep of how to float. How do you go to the bathroom in space is always popular. Are there aliens? And so there's a handful of questions that everybody asks. And Q&A is a big part of what we do. I try and end it about 15 minutes early or so, and there's always more questions than there are time to answer them.
I bet. And taking in that view can never get old. And obviously your passion for photography and what you were able to bring to the ISS is what you're bringing to the event coming up next week.
Yeah, it's really a visual show, and I always ask the theater stage manager to turn the lights down as much as possible, because they're not there to watch me. They're there to see these amazing pictures on the wall. And I was a camera nerd before I went into space. I'm the kind of guy, my kids were like, "Dad, stop taking pictures." And so I love taking pictures. I love making a beautiful planet. Since I've been back on Earth, I directed a documentary called One More Orbit. We set a world record flying around the planet. I made a short film, and I'd like to do some other things, because that's how you communicate with people, and that's how you impact people, I think. And I really love visual arts, still photography, film, that kind of thing.
And you've definitely done that in our short little chat. And this is just a tiny little snippet of what viewers in Burlington or around the region can experience, because Terry Virts is heading to the Burlington Performing Arts Center coming up on Thursday, November the 17th at 7 p.m. You can get your tickets at burlingtonpac.ca. National Geographic Live. Terry Virts, thanks for joining us.
Can't wait to be there.
Cheers.